There is a YouTuber who does all sorts of content, usually like wrestling videos, video essays, and stuff. And today, as I do a terrible impression of this individual, we're going to
I
jump into
knew it.
that.
I knew that's what you were doing. I was like, God fucking damn it. He's starting so early.
Dorkos in Weirdoz.
Welcome to the Dorkos and Weirdoz podcast, the show where we talk to creatively strange and nerdy people. I'm your host, Kai Jordan, and today my guest is someone, as I explained in that really shitty cold open that I did, someone I've been following since I saw Berserk 2016, and it made me very disappointed, and his powerful words on it, especially the really good breakdown on it, really put my frustrations with the show to words, and I'm blessed to have this person on my podcast today. Would you like to introduce yourself, special guest?
Yep, sure. My name is John Walsh. I run the YouTube channel Super Eyepatch Wolf. Been doing it for about 5 years now. And me and Kai recently worked together on a very special project.
Yep, a special project that you can see right now on the YouTubes, especially during especially if you live out in America, and pandemic is starting to ease up a bit, but you should still probably be careful. But yeah, if you are still longing for those good old weird sports days, you should definitely check out that Space Jam video when you get the time.
Kai, actually, something I've been so curious to ask you because, like, you've seen the full video now, and like you know it's up.
Yep.
What was the entire process of like hearing from me, hearing the idea, and because you really had very little to go off. Like, I think that video is one of the most impossible to explain videos I have ever made because it's so fucking weird. And so, how was it for you, like, hearing the pitch of that and just that entire process?
Immediately, I wanted to keep myself quiet, mainly just because I didn't want to be so rude. But immediately, I was gonna pull like a Yuri Lowenthal, where I was like, as soon as I heard your pitch, as soon as I like heard your pitch or whatever, I was gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna stop you. Whatever you're saying right now, I'm already in. Just whatever it is. But I didn't want to be rude, so because I just saw it as I just saw it as an opportunity. I get to work with a YouTuber that I've been watching for so long, and who I heavily base a lot of my content on. Like, especially like I did like that Agretzko video that you did, like that introduction you did about your personal experience with like getting fired and stuff. I tried to like really like keep that in mind when I started my intro for BoJack, because the show is about people who burn bridges and stuff, and not going to name names, but there were certain people during that time that I knew personally that did some really shitty things, and I had to like just word myself in a way where like, yeah, that shit sucks, and
Yeah.
that was a really cool thing there. So that's something there. So as we start this, as I and many of your longtime viewers know, Wooly of Wooly versus previously the Super Best Friends cast, his harsh words towards Hunter x Hunter inspired you to start your own YouTube channel, and
Yep.
just like his words of Hunter x Hunter, I fucking hate it, but that's okay, and then just like something that there's a fire that lit inside, and you just said, I disagree, sir, and then you and to borrow a quote from your one of your videos, Wooly made me so is a man who made me so angry I started a YouTube channel. So you two, what I can tell, like, just both of you have a very unique, interesting friendship slash rivalry, especially during that battle that I saw.
That's one way to describe it. Yes.
Yeah. How would you like, and just like even like over time as you've gotten more videos, and now as you've reached 1 million subs, like, just who would you say are like your strongest friendships and rivalries that you formed after starting your channel, and who inspires you to improve?
I think if you're talking friendships, Wooly versus is definitely he's definitely someone who like we do have like a big rivalry on camera and stuff like that, and we
Yeah.
really just lean into shitting on each other a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also someone I met who there was just an immediate connection with,
Yeah.
and like from pretty much the moment I said hi to Wooly, it just felt just natural, like it just felt like we had a lot of similar interests, and like I think much more importantly, we had a really, I'm not going to say similar sense of humor, but a sense of
Yeah.
humor that kind of clicks with each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's just a kind of chemistry with Wooly in that like I can call Wooly up, you know, just to chat, like just, you know, have a drink or whatever.
Yeah.
And within like an hour, it's nearly inevitable that we're going to be like pitching ideas for like weird skits we could do in videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like you know, like not to go too into stuff, but like Wooly also then kind of he kind of spoke about on his podcast about how like, you know, he kind of developed like some problems with anxiety, and like, you know,
Right.
anxiety is something that I've kind of dealt with a lot. And so I think, you know, I shared with him some of my experiences about that, and I think stuff like that makes you closer. In terms of other people I'm close with, I'm very fond of Jeff too, Mother's Basement.
Great guy.
I feel like I have a really strange connection with Jeff in that we both came up within a year of each other.
Yeah.
You know? It's
Yeah.
like I've always been like pretty much like a year behind Jeff, and we came up in during this super specific era of anime YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
And when you both go through something so familiar and both your lives change at such a kind of similar pace, in a way I kind of feel like there's just this kind of common ground between me and Jeff that we don't have and will not have with anyone else. And that always really, like, I always think my relationship with Jeff is kind of special because of that.
Right. Yeah, and even just
Um,
yeah, for real. Yeah.
And then, like, you know, there's a ton of other people as well. Like, through Wooly, then I met one of my friends, Rachel. And she's a Ronnie Vile on Twitter and Instagram. She's a cosplayer, and she's just fucking awesome. And like, whenever I see her at a con, it's just like, oh, here we go. Like, this is gonna be fucking great, you know. And then like, same with
Yeah.
Austin Eruption. My friend Keiko Cat, who is someone I became real close with, from like just finding one of her videos and, you know, shouting her out in a favorite things video. And then like her friend Haley, and then like, God, like, just there's a lot of people. Like H Bomber Guy is someone kind of I talk to pretty regularly, and I think it was really interesting because like with H Bomber Guy, like I noticed he was in Dublin one day, and I shot him a message, and like I was like, hey, do you want to grab brunch or whatever? And I was really nervous going to meet him. Like, really, really nervous, because like, this is H Bomber Guy, like, to me, like, maybe the gold standard in video essays, you know, just an incredible talent, extremely hardworking. And you know, like, you asked about people who inspire me, like, he's definitely one of them.
Indeed.
And I walked up to him, and I just kind of looked him in the eye, and he was looking at me, and I was looking at him, and I was like, oh my God, he is also shitting himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And from that moment, I just felt so at ease, and it was such a great morning. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just, we had such a good time. And like, there was a part where like he went up to go to the bathroom, and like I gave the waiter my credit card, and I was like, yeah, just you know, put it all on my card. And then I went to go to the bathroom, and I came back down, and he was like fuming, and he was like, I can't believe you've done this, because he tried to pay when I was at the bathroom, but I already got there, and it was great. So yeah, like, there's a lot of people that, and like, I am leaving out so many people, and if you're one of them listening to this, I am so sorry, but like, I have met some real fucking great people through this, and like, some of them are YouTubers, and some of them are just people I met at cons.
Yeah.
You know, I think me and you might have been talking about this recently, and I told a story about a guy I met called Marcus.
Okay.
And Marcus I was at a friend's signing, and like, you know, people were kind of recognizing me as well and stuff, and coming up and saying hi and whatever, and I got talking to this guy Marcus. And what was so cool about Marcus is like, he was just this ultra chill dude, just really really nice, and that's kind of refreshing at a con, because you get a lot of like, oh my god, you're my favorite YouTuber, which is always so sweet and so appreciated. But
Yeah,
when you hear it like 100 times within a 3 day span, like you kind of go a little numb to it.
a little
But
bit.
I remember I just went to went for pizza. It was like 2 a.m. and I was like, I'm gonna go grab some pizza. Do you want to come? And he was like, yeah. And then like when we're out for pizza, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a YouTuber. I do this and that. He's like, oh, and he was like, oh, I know who you are. I've watched all your videos. And I was like, oh. But I always super appreciated the fact that he kind of didn't bring that into it. You know what I mean? Like he kind of
Right.
just let things be, and that was ultra cool. Like that was a nice experience. So yeah, there's just like I have a lot of great memories of people like that from cons, and God, I cannot wait for cons to come back and like start gaining more of those memories.
Yeah, indeed. It'll be like it's with this whole like thing happening. Like I posted a meme about it like a while ago on Twitter. But it's like when Luffy's like separated from the crew during the separation arc, and then you come back like 2 years later. It literally feels like that. Like 2 years, 3 days.
It is literally going to be that. Like, oh my God. Like
Yeah.
if Magfest happens next year, like, oh, I couldn't. That'd be just amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of a collaborator, to add on to the super best friend stuff, like just in general, like those guys, when they were still together and now they're doing their own thing now. Like, how did you first find out about the super best friends? Because for someone like me, I saw them back like when it was just Matt and Pat, like on Machinima during those days. How did you get into that?
Pretty much same. I remember like watching them on Machinima first, and then finding that Matt had this. I think it's the Switcher channel, and maybe
Yeah.
that became the Best Friends channel. I can't remember the specific, but a friend of mine just told me that there were these two. Actually, funny, Rebecca, who did the storyboards on the Space Jam video, she told me about these two guys on the internet making like these like 15-minute videos, and I just got so into them, and it was like, it was like a friendship simulator. It was what it was, and I
Yeah.
loved that early format of just them being these, super tight videos. And I think like it's understandable why it's kind of changed the way it has, and like they were ahead of the curve on pretty much everything. But man, when they, they used to play like games for 3 hours and cut it up into 15 minutes, and every minute of it would just be hilarious. And God, I should go back and watch some of them. And so then, I followed the channel. Then they had the Super Best Friend cast for like years, and I listened to every episode of that. And then, kind of like those guys, they kind of had to separate for their own reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was really sad. But I think like I also get it, because it's like sometimes you just kind of, what's right for your audience isn't right for you. And I always respect creators for kind of taking that distance.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Especially just like not to put too many specific examples, just because there's a whole there's other YouTubers who have talked about this particular Let's Play channel in far more detail than I ever could. But just say you run a channel for a while, and and then things happen. Sometimes very controversial things happen. It's just sort of a sign of that vibe and all that. You just got to be very careful and understand, is this good for you, or having fun doing it? Are you really doing this for the fun of it, or are you just doing this because you're just trying to make a paycheck? And it's stuff like that you got to be wary of, especially.
Yeah, for sure. And people are complicated. And when someone's doing like a Let's Play or a podcast or whatever, you are always getting like a kind of on version of that person.
Yeah.
And you might not know what's going on in their personal life. I feel like it can be so easy to kind of make assumptions about like people's relationships or what's going on with them. And I've been doing this for 6 years. I have seen some fucking wild theories about myself. And not like overly negative, but just kind of wrong. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh man, you really think you got this figured out, don't you? And yeah.
Yeah, though to be fair, those guys on Twitter really had you when they found out that you supported Satan, apparently.
Oh my God, yeah. So yeah, a Christian YouTube channel recently used a minute and a half of my Dragon Ball video in this 4-part documentary they made called "Exposing the Dark Side of Anime." And the kicker is that they're selling it for $30 as a
What?
DVD. Yep.
Fuck off. What?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna put the stream up on the Let's Fight a Boss YouTube channel. You should watch it. It is fucking wild. Like,
Oh my god.
yeah. I've had a bunch of people asking me, am I gonna take like legal action against them? And I'm not going to take legal action against them after thinking about it because it's too much of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But I am going to make them regret it, and I have started. I have started. The wheels are in motion, and I'm excited.
The eye patch wolf is about to rear its fangs, or whatever the phrase is called. You know, you're about to show the fangs.
Shit! I wish I'd said that.
Oh yeah. Speaking of irritations, in Bosscast and all that, too. But I was in preparation for this particular interview. I went back and listened to some episodes, and particularly some highlights that made me crack up. Like one I already told you about was the one that I call the Dark Knight Rises incident, where a particular individual took issue with you, claiming gaslighting you, basically saying that you were taking his seat, and the woman you will never stop hating, who just says it's my fault, Derek. That one, and then the other story that maybe that I couldn't stop laughing at. I was laughing at it for like 15 minutes because it was just I could just imagine it. It was the Quasar story where the fucking guy.
Oh, the happy. Will I? Do you want me to tell that story?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Recap.
Okay, so this is like when I was like maybe 12 thereabouts, and I went down to Galway to visit a friend of mine, and we went to the town, and like we kind of he gave me his like Chicago Bulls hat, and I wore that around the town. I thought it was cool. I didn't know who the Chicago Bulls were, but I knew like Michael Jordan, and I like the logo. And at one point, I went to Quasar, which is like I guess laser tag in America.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's only two of us, so we get put with a big group, and all the rest of the group knew each other, but we didn't know them. And at one point, like this kid, like he was like a little smaller than me. He was like maybe 10 or 11. He comes up to me and he goes, "Just so you know, the Chicago Bulls suck." This is about 1996, and I have since learned that the Chicago Bulls did not actually suck. But I was like, just so you know, I don't care. But this little fucking shit, like the entire laser tag match, he's coming up to me and he's like jabbing his rifle in my side and just being like the biggest pain in the ass, you know? And like he would like bang it into my hands and stuff, and like it really hurt. And like this was like a 30 or 40 minute match, and I was getting really pissed. And so right at the end of it, I'm at the top of this ramp, and he runs up to me and he starts doing the same shit again. And I think I was like, "Stop it!" And he just ignored me. And so I just, without thinking, I just lifted my fist and I just smashed it into his face, and he just went down, like he just buckled. And then he hits the ramp and just rolls, just like a slow tumble downwards. And so eventually, so I'm looking at him and he's not moving, and I'm like, oh shit. And so then I run and the round ends or whatever, and like I'm real nervous, and I'm like we're all gathered in the hall afterwards to calculate the scores, and I look over at him and he comes out, and like he's kind of white and kind of like shaken up, you know. And I'm kind of glaring at him, like, and I'm glaring at him like, don't you fucking say a word, you know, like don't say anything. And so then like they tally up the scores or whatever, and I think I did all right, which I was pretty happy about. And then he's like, but then like the guy in charge is like, okay, and I'm told we have one very special little boy here. It's Eric. Happy birthday, Eric. And he points to the little kid I punched. And we're all sitting there going, and like I have to start singing because everyone starts singing happy birthday, so I just start going, happy birthday to and little Eric is just there fucking shivering, and he won't look at me. And I don't regret a thing.
Wow. Yeah, that is like, because just there are people like that just like, especially like they just don't know when to stop or just like take a hint. So it's just like fucking all right. this is the way you want to roll it. All right, fine. I think the reason why it made me laugh so much is because I could see like someone like making like a cartoon of it, just like little chibi you or whatever, and then just you just like getting aggravated, just fucking stop it, and then just like,
Yep.
and then just you raising your fist like a fucking, I don't know, like some Oscar shit, and then just smacking him back.
Yeah, and like
It's just-
I always think like there's you ever meet someone and it's like this person has never had their ass kicked. Like this person has never suffered a beating and it shows. I like to think little Eric was one of them, and I like to think I dramatically improved his life from that point on.
Yeah, literally like anyone in my fucking, I want to say like anyone who's ever been shitty to me during like my high school years or whatever like that, definitely. So like with those questions in mind, what are like just taking those experience, like the little shit kid who's just being obnoxious, and the asshole bitch who is just telling you it's my fault, we'll just let him have his win. What are your like biggest like social pet peeves, like in social interactions, just like fucking why are you being this way to me?
Um, one of them for me is definitely like maybe it's definitely a big cultural thing in Ireland, but like especially among like lads, like guys like to slag each other a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like you can make fun of someone in a friendly way,
Yeah.
but for me, you gotta really earn that and you gotta build up to it.
Yeah.
Like you listen to my podcast with Neve and Brian.
Right.
They like ridicule me constantly.
Yeah, because they know you.
And yeah, what you're not seeing is like, you know, the like 15 years of friendship that goes with that, and like all the shit we've kind of been through, and like all the things we've kind of helped each other through, you know. And so
Yeah.
it's like those two are kind of like family, and I don't say that in like a super kind of like romantic way. I mean it in a really kind of practical way, in that like they drive me insane, but they're the people I will look out for more than anyone, you know.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes and like maybe it's a problem specifically to me, because sometimes I think like people listen to the podcast and then think that like they can kind of shortcut themselves to that kind of relationship, and it's like, oof, nah, dude.
Mm-mm-mm.
Like
No.
like that is not how this is gonna go.
No.
And then for me socially as well, if someone just cannot get over what I do, I find that quite trying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you hear a lot of the same jokes when you're a YouTuber, and it gets a little tiresome after a while.
Yeah. Yeah, like, and I even explained this to you one time when we were recording for that video in particular, the Space Jam video. The thing that's really infuriating to me, like personally, like, is just like people just being like people who know they're being assholes and don't care. Like they're aware that what they're doing is wrong and they don't give a shit. Or even just like people who are being passive aggressive, or even like people who are just sort of being hypocritical but don't learn from it. Because like at one point we're all hypocrites at some point. We do something, like, so we say don't do this thing and then we end up doing that thing. But what separates an ignorant hypocrite from a wise one is someone who learns from their mistakes. If they're doing the same thing over and over again, that shit can be infuriating, especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get you for sure. And like, you know, I think everyone is an asshole at some point.
Yeah.
Like you find the right person on just like that one, you know, 5-minute period of the week, and it's like, yeah, that person's going to be a dickhead, and it's your ability to kind of learn from that. I think like the problem, I think like with a lot of people like that, and like the worst people I think I've met, is it's less that they're like just straight up bad people, and it's more that they enter a kind of delusional state where the only way for them to continue forward is to take every instance of themselves doing a bad thing and skew it until they're not the problem anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's tempting. Like, it is really tempting to do that for sure, but I think what eventually happens then is like you're kind of going for like short-term comfort over long-term growth, and after a while, like you do just like those are the kind of people who to me end up with like just very few relationships and just
Yeah.
kind of isolated. And I have seen that a couple of times, like in my personal life and in YouTube stuff as well.
Yeah. Indeed. So from your video essay breakdowns of The Shining, the works of Junji Ito, Blood on the Tracks, you clearly have an interest in horror. And so I'm just going to go off on a long limb here. Like, I'm sure, like, Halloween, it's this underground holiday. You probably haven't heard of it. It's like, are you into Halloween by chance? Is it like your favorite holiday by chance? Am I reading that correctly?
No, I'm a big Christmas guy.
Yeah.
I loved Halloween when I was little, but I think Halloween in Dublin is like rough. Like people really go at it, and it's kind of just yeah. It's like it can be like a lot of kids with a lot of very unsafe fireworks, a lot of drinking. It's a real kind of like not going outside tonight kind of evening.
Oh, geez. Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't realize that because, all right, wow. Like, just really, it's just like is it really just like the Purge out there when it's Halloween? Really?
Oh yeah, like don't get me started on St. Patrick's Day in Dublin.
Oh God, I've only heard like rough stories from like Chris O'Neill and Sleepycast about stuff like that. But holy shit. But in regards to Christmas, do you have any like particular like Christmas memories of that particular holiday? Anything? I know it's like way early to say this, but hey, like it's been a fucking 2020, and we're still just barely recovering from it. So
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, I think like the biggest one for me, which I imagine is kind of something everyone has one of these, right? But for me, it was like the Super Nintendo Christmas.
right.
Like the Christmas I got a Super Nintendo was just like literally life changing. Like
Yeah.
when you look at the kind of the road that put me on, it was like that was the beginning, like the very beginning of so many things.
Right.
And I love that. And like nowadays for around Christmas, like I go home to my parents and I spend like 5 or 6 days at home with them. And, like I'm an only child. I don't have any brothers or sisters.
Right.
And I'm really close with my parents. Like they're they have always been great. And going home and spending a lot of time with them really means a lot. And like even they are both vaccinated as of recently.
Yeah.
And so I was able to go home and see them for the first time in months. And we watched the first episode of The Wire, and they really liked it, and it was such a good time.
Nice. Yeah, that must have been a great thing. Just being separated from folks like that because of a pandemic and also because of stupidity out there. It's just the most infuriating thing. And then when we finally have that chance to get back, it's just like, yes, I've been waiting for this, to see this person again. And that's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like nourishment for my soul. It was like, oh, this is so good. And like I got to see my dog and my cat again, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, man. But, hopping back to the horror question again, in, like, one thing, this is something I've noticed as a child, like, in the early, like, mid-2010s or whatever, or actually in middle school or whatever the fuck old I was, in the early, like, mid-2010s, there was, like, this weird trend, like, mid-2010s, late 2000s, there's, like, this trend of, like, horror movies and horror remakes that would overuse jump scares. Like, like, I've noticed it, I've noticed, though, with the release of movies like Oculus and Get Out, like, directors are actually trying to find more creative ways to scare and actually trying to get back into that atmospheric horror that we haven't had in years, especially with, Oculus, Get Out, Babadook, those are the ones that, like, made me really, oh yeah, horror movies can be scary again. So, what is, like, a modern 2010s horror movie that really pushes boundaries, and a modern 2010s horror movie that's just blah, like the most boring piece of nothing?
Oh, I got a spicy answer for this one. But okay, first let me think of like a really good modern horror movie. Like I love I love the oh fuck, I'm completely blanking on his name. Insidious, not Insidious, not Inception. Oh, Midsommar guy.
Ari Aster.
Yeah. All his stuff, just just nightmares, just genuine, horrifying, emotional nightmares.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Like I love his stuff so much. It's not a film, but I genuinely think Devotion, the Taiwanese game, is just one of the best pieces of horror ever invented.
Yeah.
Just absolutely incredible. Um, Let me think other stuff. I know I watched some stuff recently. I did a video on disturbing horror movies a while ago, and that was a really good experience in terms of like why is this one working and why isn't this? Because like I watched a fair bit. I watched some the house that Jack built and stuff like that, and it was
Yeah.
like real kind of gratuitous violence and shock, but it just didn't stay with me at all. Like
Yeah.
it didn't really resonate in a meaningful way. And then I
Ugh.
watched other stuff that like I watched this 1980s movie called Possession.
Okay.
Holy
Yeah.
shit, like it was like it was a kind of fever dream of a movie, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but my god, it really tapped into something. Okay, modern horror film that I just think is not it, and for me it would have to be It, the remakes.
Okay.
I think those things are like carnival rides that like jump up and scare you every couple of minutes, and I have thought so long about doing a video about these because I think like they're like acceptable Sunday afternoon movies, and I think they're terrible horror movies. The one exception though is there is this one scene in It 2 in an old woman's apartment, and they
Yeah.
used it in a lot of the promotional material for it. That's a fucking great piece of horror, and I wish the rest of the films had that, because I feel like the way there's like a formula for how they do horror in it. It's like build tension, build tension, build tension, build tension, and then something screams in the camera. And then there's like a little, a little kind of like scuttle, a little chase sequence, and it's
Yeah.
over. And there's never any feeling of like kind of real emotional or atmospheric horror. It's just all
Right.
this very instantaneous cheap scares. And like, the original It movie is not a perfect movie, but if you go back and watch it, there is a very upsetting, surreal quality to that movie that I think is really, really strong. Even for like in all the other ways, it's like goofy, and a lot of the acting's not great, but it's like a good it's like a good piece of horror, I think, still.
Okay. Yeah. I can definitely see that perspective, especially like that. I kind of share that same opinion for a movie like Insidious, actually. Like when I first saw that movie, I just thought this is just like 10 minutes of jump scares, and it's like it's not even like, I'm sure there's like a lot of creativeness in this. Like I appreciate the cinematography. I probably need to watch it again to appreciate it, but like as soon as I heard like Tiptoe Through the Tulips, I'm just like, really? This is the spooky this is the spooky song?
Oh man, I actually love Insidious. Like I think it's like it is so I think that movie is so creative with its jump scares,
Yeah.
and so creative with its cinematography, and like it is kind of the same thing, but that movie did actually like succeed in really getting me a few times.
Yeah.
And it's like if I want jump scares to be in something, I want them to be like the best jump scares, and I think like there are so many really thoughtful, interesting jump scares in that movie. Like
Yeah.
the part where like the guy is walking back and forth past the window, and then like he's walking out of camera, and then he just walks, and all of a sudden he's right in front of the camera. Like it's really hard to describe, but visually it's such a cool trick, and I love that stuff.
Right. Yeah. I know there's one, like, there are a few, yeah, like the Darth Maul looking motherfucker that appears right behind the guy and then they scream. That was pretty creepy. I also like that bit where he enters that weird ghost dimension and then he sees the people just like the way they move. It's just like this weird broken like doll feature and all that stuff. That shit was creepy. But,
Yeah, when people move at different frame rates, I can't handle that.
Yeah. It's just like this weird uncanny. There should be like, you know how like Tron Legacy like and a few other people like try to do like these weird CG bodies and stuff. What if there was like a horror movie around that, like just a horror movie, like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers thing, where people like they just looked like that, and that was the whole horror with that, just that uncanny valley shit.
Well, yeah, what if like there was a horror movie and the antagonists looked like PS1 character models? I bet you could actually do something there. I bet there is something that would actually work, because like a lot of those old PS1 games actually look kind of creepy because like they're these faces without eyes and mouths, and they're just kind of, this just shadow to indicate it's
Yeah, it's
interesting.
some weird Slenderman shit. Oh yeah, and yeah, you mentioned like Ari Aster. Do you know about Ari Aster's first short, like before he did Hereditary?
Boy, do I.
Oh boy. That was I discovered that after watching Hereditary, because I was like, Hereditary was like, boy, that was fucked up. I'm not gonna be sleeping for the next hour. And then I watched Midsummer the following week because it was Halloween. I'm like, all right, that was slightly more digestible, but still kind of fucked up because at the time I was in a relationship, and I'm like, I hope I'm not doing a terrible job right now. We broke up, but it wasn't because of that. It was just because it wasn't working. Anyway, enough about my sad life and single stuff. Anyway, so first short, strange thing about the Johnsons. Without getting to too much
that
things,
that was a movie I actually watched for that Disturbing Videos movie, or that Disturbing Movies video, and I was just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Just not touching this. I do not need this in my life. I love that movie. It is horrible. Like, it is awful, and it's, if people have not seen it, basically, if there is anything that can get you upset in media, it's probably in that movie. So, proceed with caution. But in terms of something that leaves a mark on you, yes, it does that very well.
Yeah, like I still remember, like, admittedly, like, this is, like how sometimes people laugh out of shock because they don't know how to process what's happening. I have that moment when I watched, like, there's a scene, like, in that short, Strange Thing About the Johnsons. To those who haven't seen the short, it's basically a story about, trigger warning, it's a story about sexual assault between a father and a son, and that's all I'll say about that. Where that scene where the dude is in the bathtub and the guy just breaks in and he's screaming and shit. I'm like, oh, like, it's just like I was laughing because I was like, Jesus, what's going on? And then like I hear what's happening in the background with with the mom like turning down the television. I'm like, oh, all right, okay. And I had to pause it and walk around my room for a few minutes because I'm like, yeah, that just happened.
Yeah.
All right.
I like how like the first 10 seconds of that movie just immediately let you know is what you're in for, because I feel like even like the way you described it there, you're 100% right in what you said, but unless you see it, you don't know. You know what I mean?
No, you don't. It's no. I first heard about that short itself even years before Hereditary came out, or a while, because one of my favorite YouTube channels, Double Toasted, did like a little review of it, and then I'm like, what is this? And then I'm like, I saw that bath scene. I'm like, that's fucked up. And then, like I said before, saw Hereditary, all that shit, and then all that's it's just one thing I've noticed about Ari Aster as a director. He's really good at making naked people scary.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Whoa.
Just like it's just like, again, can't say too much, especially like especially like the guy he gets to composes his shit. Like, it just haunts you and just leaves you with this really uncomfortable feeling, like you're just unraveling and shit. Like that. That's why I'm really excited for that Uzumaki adaptation that's coming out eventually when pandemic makes things. When the pandemic becomes an endemic.
What was the last update on that?
The last thing we saw was like a Q&A from some of the Toonami folks over there, like saying what was going on and stuff. But COVID happened and set everything back, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking
Hopefully
of,
that works out.
Yeah, indeed. Speaking of like adaptations of horror and shit, so Shino Adachi, also known as Blood on the Tracks in America, one thing I've discovered that manga through watching your breakdown of that, and I read that, and without giving too much away to the listeners, it is definitely one of the creepiest things I've ever read. Like, just emotional dread everywhere, and especially like just Seiko as a character. Like, if you have ever known someone who has had an abusive parent figure, take them and multiply them by 100, and you basically have Seiko. And I just wonder, like, I do this all the time whenever I read manga, especially when it's something new. like how it would work like in an animated like adaptation or whatever. And I'm thinking if they ever did something like that, they would put like all those like Sakuga moments they'd put in those expressions, like just fucking character animation, just full on. And that would that would
And
make it
how
so
how
amazing.
incredible would that be? Like,
Yeah,
oh my god, I think they could do such a like. There is a whole new like style of anime waiting to happen with that stuff, and like honestly, that's and it could still work as actually quite a minimal production as well. I think,
yeah.
but I find it hard to get my hopes up because like it was if you've ever read or Flowers of Evil,
Hmm.
his other manga. That got an anime adaptation, but it was all rotoscope, and
Yeah,
I hate rotoscope. Like I think rotoscope is, to me, it takes the weaknesses of both live action and animation. It's like live action, you're very limited to what you can do unless you have a massive effects budget, and then like animation, it takes forever, and it's, to me, you're just taking the worst possible parts of both of them. And
yeah.
it yeah, I really was so, I only ever watched like an episode or two, and maybe I should go back and give it like a proper chance, but the look of it turned me off so much.
Indeed. Yeah, and another one of my favorite videos of yours was the two Simpsons videos you did.
Mm.
The Fall of the Simpsons, how it happened, and the bizarre media of the Simpsons. Like just like seeing like because it happens to a lot of shows really. Like just the fact that a show can go on for so long, and then the characters just become flanderized, and just like they try to recapture what happened and what made it work, but instead they just tread ground and tire ground that isn't new or whatever. And
Mm.
one thing I've noticed that like say what you will about Doctor Who, but one thing I will give that series credit for is that it always tries to reinvent itself. It always tries to like change what it is and try to adapt with like just see like okay, this character we'll do it this way. Okay, it didn't work that way. We'll change it out a bit and this is our time to leave or whatever. And so do you think what is like the best way for like a long-running show, whatever it is, to just like reinvent itself?
Um, I think like, I guess just to broaden this question out to just like creativity in general, I think like if you're a creator and you're creating something that's successful, like that's awesome and like you should be proud of it. But if you can't, you only have, it's like creativity to me is, it's nearly like mining, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you only have so much of you, there's only so much of that one resource you can mine, and eventually your audience will get tired of it, but much more critically, I think you will get tired of it, you
Yeah.
know. And I think before that happens, you have to do something different, but that's hard because the only way you know something's different enough is that it scares you.
Yeah.
And with the Simpsons, one of the most successful, if not the most successful TV show of all time, there's a lot of money tied up in that. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
vested interest. They make millions off their mobile app. They make millions from merchandise. Maybe not as much anymore, but like, there, I'm sure, was a very specific way, executives want that show to be made. And so doing things different and doing things that scare you is really, really hard,
Yeah.
and like that's one of the things I'm kind of thankful about what I do, because like I can kind of just do whatever I want and there is no one standing over me. Now, like, a certain portion of my audience is always going to get upset, like when I do something that is outside of what they perceive I want. But for me, like, it's so much bigger than that, because for me it's about survival and it's about finding new things that excite me and keep me wanting to do this, like even with the Space Jam video, like the reception was massively popular, like on a scale
Yeah.
that I was not expecting. But even then, like in that, there was a few people who were like kind of like disappointed because it was so different to what I usually do. And like I can appreciate that and like I can
Yeah.
respect it, but ultimately I do have to kind of say, like, I appreciate you watching my videos. Thank you for the support, but ultimately it is not my job to please you personally.
Yeah.
It's my job, like my job since day one has been like, follow what makes me excited. And if people want to watch, awesome. And if people don't want to watch, that is completely fair. Like, no one has to watch what I do.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like, I remember, like, some of my voice actor friends have been doing, like, TikTok stuff, and they would give me advice on, like, how to get my views up, and with all due respect to my friends and stuff, I don't really care if my stuff gets views, because I'm doing it because I feel like it, you know? And, same with, like, making video essays and stuff. Like, when I was, like, I could rush into getting a new computer right now, but I'm like, no, I could save up my money and sharpen my skills before I do my next essay, and plus there's plenty of inspiration to get, so there's
Yeah.
that whole thing there.
Yeah, and like, if people chase views, I think like a certain amount of that is like it's healthy enough, it's fine. But I've also seen the other side of it where, people are combing through their kind of, YouTube analytics, and they're like trying to figure out, okay, what's the next trend? What can I jump on? Like, what's going to net me a bunch of views? And I think that can be kind of a road to madness as well,
Yeah.
And I think that can really cut off, like, that can really kind of block you from the stuff you actually want to make.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, just like keep yourself inspired, keep looking for shit, and you'll make something that people might like, You'll figure it out. So we got some Twitter questions that I can throw in here. This first one comes from Xander Mobus, VO, the guy who plays the Smash narrator and Joker in Persona 5. He's asking, if you were trapped on a desert island and you could only bring one thing with you, would you rather it be a lifetime supply of luxurious toilet paper or a clone of Tom Hanks who could only say the sentence, "Hi, I'm American treasure Tom Hanks"?
I think I gotta go with the Tom Hanks clone. Like, I think we develop a relationship, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's all he can say. But would he emote? Like if something sad happened, would he be like, "Hi, I'm Tom Hanks, American treasure"? Like, would he still be a person? I think I'd go with him, because if he wasn't, I'd just kill him and eat him.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, exactly. It's just, yeah.
I'm just being real. I'm just being real here.
Indeed, it's a tough choice. You got a celebrity who devolves into a Pokemon, or keeping yourself clean for a life.
You see, the thing is, like, at a certain point, if I'm trapped on the island with one pair of clothes, I'm not sure how much good a lifetime supply of luxury toilet paper is going to do me.
Yeah. Plus, it'll probably get washed up in the thing, and then all dirty and shit.
Yeah, like one rainy night, it's all it takes.
Yep. Next question comes in from my friend Greg, Dat Greymind. He says, if you were offered $250, 250K a month, or 250K euro, whatever currency, to work 9 to 5 as a human-sized hamster, i.e., wear a hamster suit, hamster outfit, running around in a ball, and live in a proportionally large hamster cage for Tom Hanks while he claps and compliments you all day, would you quit YouTube to do it?
Okay, is there like a time limit on this? Like, do I have to sign a contract?
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Greg for that.
Because I mean, like, a month, sure, and then I'd quit and I'd make a YouTube video about it, and that would be pretty, But if I'm having to sign to like a multi-year long thing, like, our time is valuable. We only got so much of it. I don't know that I want to be Tom Hanks's hamster.
Yeah, that's a very thought-provoking answer there, my friend.
It's like, do you ever hear that it's like, would you agree to, like, say, take the wage of your current job right now, and just for the rest of your life, your job is 9 to 5, go sit in an empty room.
Oh.
You don't have to do anything. Now, you're not allowed, you have to sit. You just have to sit there. You're not allowed to read. You're not allowed to listen to things. You just, like, would you take that? And I thought about that for a long time. I don't think I would. I think what you're actually doing is sacrificing a huge amount of the human experience.
Yeah. It, like, literally, like, 'cause, yeah, you're literally wasting your time. And time is invaluable currency that you can never get back.
you're not growing, you're not building relationships. It's just, yeah. And like, I can think of a lot of times during my life when I was like in a like job or something, and looking back on it, it was like, wow, I really got some great friends out of that, even though at the time it just felt like, doing the same shit over and over and over.
And then another nerdy discussion that I'd like to add from your first video, like just I take a look at something like the original Berserk, or I take a look at something like Castlevania, like just the adaptation that we got from Powerhouse, like because I consider that an American anime, just an expression and stuff like that, and it made me wonder, what if we saw like Western animators over here or wherever just like direct their own adaptations of Japanese manga, like say, what if like someone like Gendy Tartakovsky did Berserk?
Hmm. I mean, I think that could be cool. I mean, there was it Tech was maybe directed by an American guy. Let me look that up super quick because that's gonna annoy me. Yeah, Michael Arias directed the anime adaptation, the movie adaptation of Tekken King Kree, and it's a goddamn fantastic movie. Like honestly, I don't know. I think like I would be curious to know about how like what like Japanese people and like the Japanese like anime and manga industry would think about that, because I think it's the kind of thing where like in isolation, a couple of times that could be really interesting, especially if they're kind of like noted noted like American animators known for a particular thing, like you just said, Gendy Tartakovsky from Berserk. That could be cool. I think like the problem then is when you start getting into like the upper echelons of society who want to put like a Hollywood sheen on everything, and that's where you start, I feel like, making worse art and also getting into some kind of just problematic like cultural stuff that I don't feel educated enough along to have like a real opinion on, but that is something I could see being a concern
a little bit. Yeah, just look because I see like because I did finish Primal again recently, and then just like dude's like got crazy talent and shit, like just like
yeah, he's unreal.
Yeah, indeed. So before we wrap this up, I usually try to ask my guests this question before the podcast is done and over with. Whether in your creative life or your personal life, what was the most difficult thing you've gone through, and how'd you overcome it?
Two things, I think. And one of them was when I was in my, we'll say, mid to late 20s. I developed like a pretty severe, like generalized anxiety disorder, and that was like full on panic attacks and stuff like that. And I always remember this one time in London. I used to like travel to cities by myself just to kind of like chill out and get away from things a bit. And I haven't done it in a long time now, but I might do it again soon. But I went to London by myself, and I was in a hotel room. Whatever fucking happened, one night I just woke up at like 4 a.m. just having like a massive panic attack, having never had one my entire life. And I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack, And it's interesting. Whenever I talk about panic attacks with other people who have had like panic attacks and anxiety disorders, there's like panic attacks, like inverted commas, which is like, oh man, I was pretty nervous about that exam. Like I totally had a panic attack at the start there. And then there's like legitimate full on panic attacks. And the thing people always say is, I always thought I had panic attacks until I actually had one. And it was really, really difficult. And what happens when you have a generalized anxiety disorder like that is that, you go to the cinema and you have a panic attack. You're not going back to the cinema because you can't deal with that. You can't be reminded of that. You go to a cafe and you have a panic attack at the cafe, and then you can't go to that cafe. And bit by bit, your world just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And it got to the point where like I wasn't sleeping anymore, and I went to therapy for it, and I found a really great therapist. I sat down one evening and I called like 10 different therapists, and she was just the one who sounded like I just had the best connection with. And so I went to see her, and I started reading Dan Reichert's book, Anxiety is an Ally, and slowly I started to kind of get over this like this crippling fear that was causing anxieties, but that was also being created by anxiety. And, it took about, I would say, a year and a half or 2 years to really, really overcome it. So that was one, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the other is just YouTube. It is being an online personality. It is, having your actions and words just analyzed over and over and over. It is seeing people on the internet who love you in such an fantastical, illogical, kind of frightening kind of way.
Yeah.
And it's seeing people who hate you that much as well.
Yeah.
And just that entire mix of emotion. I love my job. I love YouTube. But the thing I always say about it is YouTube is the best job I've ever had. It is the hardest job I've ever had because, you can never fully clock out. Like even when I was working at jobs I didn't like very much, like kind of, studio jobs, retail jobs, when it was 5 o'clock, my day was fucking over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, with this job, it never really ends. And I love it still. And I like being well known online, I'm I think as far as content creators go, generally my reputation is pretty good and a lot of people view me pretty positively.
Yeah.
But the way I always describe it, right, is when you make a video, absolute best case scenario is that if you have anything to say that is taking a stance on anything, you're going to piss off 1% of people.
Yeah.
You put out a video and it gets 100 views, you piss off one person. That's not a big deal. They might not even do anything about it. They might not even leave a comment. They might not even leave a dislike or anything. Then you start growing and then you get to 10,000 people. Now you pissed off 100 people. There's 100 pissed off people. Some of them are probably going to try and let you know about it. Some of them are probably going to try and find a way to fuck with you or just, try and say the exact right thing. My most popular videos have 5 and 6 million views. That is a lot of very, very angry people. My total channel views is over 100 million.
Yeah.
That means I have pissed off more than 1 million people.
Jesus.
And that is a lot to be at the center of, and to the point where a big part of learning YouTube and learning to deal with it is kind of learning to insulate myself from that stuff, So I try and look at Twitter once or twice a week, and some weeks I am successful and some weeks I am not. I don't Google my own name. I don't look at my own mentions. I don't when a video goes out, I'll scan through the comments to see the reception. But after that, I don't look at my comments because, if you want to see something to upset you, you will find it eventually. And, people have a lot of strong opinions about me one way or the other. And learning that that's fair. I am in terms of YouTube video essays, I am a pretty big player at this point, and I do make mistakes, and I really genuinely try and learn from them.
Yeah.
But I also just that just sheer wall of feedback, I can't take it on.
Yeah.
I can't take it all on, and it goes both ways as well, because sometimes I'll get messages from people being, saying some pretty, I've gotten messages from people saying that, my videos helped get them through me, a really difficult period of their lives, even talking about stuff like suicide and stuff like that. And that means a lot, but it's not something I can really internalize because it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's kind of I have to, for me to just be a person and to keep making the videos I want to make, I need to maintain a healthy level of distance from that, and learning that and learning it and fucking up with it and all the pain and misery that comes with, just seeing people make videos about you or seeing like insane, just like crazy rumors about you.
Yeah.
It's like it's a long bloody learning curve, and it's something I do a lot better with now, but that has been one of the most difficult things in my life for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, just like, and that's I constantly worry about that as well. Just like, because like I remember you bringing it up one time in your Perfect Blue video, and especially Paranoid Agent. Just like our avatars and how we represent ourselves, like, can just be warped out of our control. Like, just especially
Mm.
like the more well known we become, or anything like that. Just like, and we start, like, I won't name names, but like there's a voice actress that I know as an acquaintance. I'm still, but anyway, I met this person a few times, and I've known, like, when I did research on their career for a video that I was making, um, a lot of people would just sort of like really pick at things that really don't mean much in the grand scheme of things. Like, people would start to like fetishize certain aspect of that person, like, say, their weight or maybe their feet or something like that. And on one hand,
Yep.
they're doing it on a private thing, but the second you start putting it on a public platform, that person is going to see that inevitably. And
Yeah, like if like I understand if you're not tweeting it at them, but if you are talking about them, they're probably going to see it at some point. Like, it depends on their following and stuff, but yeah. And like that's the other thing as well. Like, I say all this as a white man,
mhm.
it's like if I was a POC, if I was a woman, if I was trans, holy fucking shit, like I am doing this on easy mode, and it is literally all I can handle. Like, I cannot imagine being on the other side of this, having to deal with even slightly more than I deal with.
Yeah.
Like, and I have so much respect and honestly just sympathy or empathy for people who have to deal with that.
Yeah, indeed. But I think what is really one to add like a light at the end of this particular tunnel. I think what is cool is, though, like, yeah, it is important to maintain that distance, and that people need to realize that, like, the people that they meet aren't really their friends unless, like, they personally know them. But like, the people who do truly like support your content and truly do appreciate what you do, that shit stays forever. And like, especially like like, yeah, we're gonna fuck up at some points, and we're gonna get some shit wrong. Um, like, I'm sure there are actors out there who have done some, like, there are actors I've known who have been fucking assholes, but they've learned from their mistakes, like, harshly, when they were brutally called out for it. And I can say that they're a much better person now, and the support that they've had, or they've come back for them and all that stuff. And they still have shitty people who still try to do stuff, but it's like, that shit doesn't matter. It's because, like, as long as you have, like, because I even speak, like, from my own personal experience. Like, I haven't, like, I've done some stuff that I'm not proud of, like, when I was, like, younger, or even just around that time. But I have a support group, and I know that I can be a better person. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope that made sense. I hope there was
Yeah,
something.
no, it does totally. And like, like with that stuff as well, a lot of times, one of the big revelations that I think like even only recently really started clicking with me is like, if there are people who like really put a lot of energy into, taking you down or whatever, and like it sounds so simple and so trite to say it, but at some point it really becomes a lot more about them than you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've, with a couple of people, I've kind of had to look at them and just be like, this person is really kind of like living out their own narrative and using like my avatar to do it. But when you really break this down, it has very little to
Yeah.
do with me and does not need my attention.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, the internet is a horrifying, amazing place.
But yeah, you know what, man? Like, just so you know, like, after this podcast, man, like, just I appreciate you. My listeners out there appreciate you. Folks on Twitter appreciate you. Bill Butts especially appreciates you for making this whole shindig happen. And yeah, just keep doing your thing, man.
Oh, thank you. And like, like, not to sound too down on the whole thing, because like, again, I love doing this stuff, and like,
Yeah.
you know, even just the opportunity to meet the people I've met, like you yourself included, like, you know, it's been great, and like it's my hope that like we end up at the same con at some point again in the future.
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully by then I won't just be some rando in a Spider-Man outfit reading
I
JoJo's.
fucking met I met my friend who I was so excited to tell about that. We went out for drinks, but we were drinking in like a kind of park, and it got freezing cold, and I was so cold I forgot to tell her that anecdote, and I'm so pissed. I'm gonna tell her next time.
It's all right, man. It's like there's always chance for the future. Lightning can strike again. But anyway, is there a place? So before we close out, is there a place where people can find you, see your updates when you're gonna do your next thing?
I don't really like talk about stuff before I do it. I generally just drop it, and I'm like, "Here you go, fuckers," and run away.
Yep.
I you can find me, just look up Super Eyepatch Wolf, and I'm there. Also run the Let's Fight a Boss video game podcast. Which if you like listening to me talk about things, that's a pretty good place to do it. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, all right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for our show. Thank you for listening, and remember to wear your strangeness and nerdy heart with pride. Take care.
Thanks, guys. There we go.